From the medieval alleys of Norwich to the piazzas of Renaissance Trento, from the crusading roads of Europe to the distant lands of Eastern Europe, the same accusation echoed through centuries. Jews, accused of kidnapping and murdering Christian children. No proof, no logic, only fear and the need to find someone to blame. It became pogroms, trials, pyres, lies that refused to die. And this ancient echo would travel across the ocean, only to find new life in the modern world. Early 20th century America seemed free of such medieval ghosts. A land of progress, electricity, and new dreams. But beneath the surface, fear of the other was still alive. Fear of the stranger, the rich, the different. In 1913, that fear found a new target. An engineer, a Jew, whose name was Leo Frank, and his story would become one of the most shocking and unjust trials in American history. Today, we tell his story, to understand how rumor can become a weapon, and truth the victim of the crowd. Atlanta, 1913. Alive with the hum of machines. It was the symbol of a new South. Ambitious, industrial, proud to rival the North. But behind factory walls, another city breathed. One of poverty, child labor, and deep divisions between white and black citizens. Between Protestants, Catholics, and Jews. Among them lived Leo Frank, a 30-year-old engineer and superintendent of a pencil factory. He had come from Brooklyn, educated, calm, a believer in the American dream. He didn't know that within months, his name would become a curse whispered in every home. April 26, 1913, Confederate Memorial Day. 13-year-old Mary Fagan walked to the factory to collect her pay, $1.20. Outside, the city celebrated. Inside the factory, silence waited. The next morning, in a dark basement, a night guard found her body. Beaten, strangled. Beside her, 2 clumsy notes written to mislead the police. Atlanta held its breath. The police needed a culprit. The city demanded answers. Suspicion turned toward the superintendent, Leo Frank. He was Jewish, northern, educated, an outsider. Crowds gathered before the jail, shouting for justice. No one wanted to hear that Frank had an alibi. The story was already written. In the days after his arrest, hatred spread like fire. Churches spoke of divine punishment. The streets shouted for revenge. Rumors blended with sermons, headlines, and old fears that wealthy Jews ruled the city. Atlanta became a powder keg. No one wanted truth. They wanted guilt. In his cell, Leo Frank wrote a letter to his wife. "If I die, tell them I was innocent." In the summer of 1913, the trial began. A trial that would forever change the American South. In the courtroom, the air was heavy, with reporters, priests, and ordinary people who had come not for justice, but for a spectacle. Behind those doors, history waited. What was meant to be a trial became a ritual, a modern echo of ancient accusations. July 25, 1913. Atlanta swelters under the summer heat. Thousands gather outside the courthouse. Inside, a suffocating room filled with onlookers, reporters, and preachers. The trial of Leo Frank has become a spectacle. The defense believed in facts. The prosecution believed in emotion. As witnesses take the stand, the courtroom feels less like a hall of justice and more like a ritual. Every glance, every word from Frank, judged as if it carried sin. The prosecution's key witness was Jim Conley, a black janitor from the factory. He admitted to helping move Mary Fagan's body, but his story changed again and again. At first, he said he acted alone, then that he did it on Frank's orders. The police needed a story, and Conley, frightened and coached, gave them one. The crowd had no doubt. The rich Jew made him do it. For many in the South, that was enough. The press roared, "Jewish fiend, beast of the factory." Each morning, Atlanta's newspapers dripped with poison. Editors painted Leo Frank as cold, perverse, inhuman. They didn't need evidence, only sales. Headlines screamed of a Jewish conspiracy, a disgrace to the South. Every article fed the fire. Outside the courthouse, vendors shouted, "Death to the monster!" Justice had become theater. Frank's lawyers tried to fight with logic. They showed that Conley lied, that the notes were written in his hand, that the timing of the murder didn't fit the accusation. But logic cannot silence a mob. When the defense spoke, the gallery shouted, "Shut up, Jew lover." On Frank's face, realization the trial was already over. August 26, 1913. The jury returned after only 4 hours. Guilty. Outside, the crowd erupted in cheers. Inside, silence. Leo Frank. Hale listened to the sentence. Death. His wife, Lucille, collapsed. The judge left the courtroom through a side door. He knew the crowd would kill him if he acquitted Frank. Law had surrendered to hate, and America lost a part of its soul. Leo Frank sat in his death cell in Atlanta's prison. The silence was broken only by the guard's footsteps and the groan of iron bars. He wrote letters to his wife, his parents, his friends. "I do not fear death," he wrote, "because truth exists even if men refuse to see it." Outside, the noise of protests reached his window. Some demanded his execution, others justice. America was at war with its conscience. Georgia's governor, John Slatton, received hundreds of desperate letters pleading for mercy. He studied the case files, read the testimonies, and realized something was wrong. He said, "If we let passion rule the law, no life will be safe." He knew his decision could end his career or his life. Yet he chose to act. He commuted Leo Frank's death sentence to life imprisonment. Slatton's decision sparked chaos. Crowds marched through Atlanta with torches in their hands. They surrounded the governor's mansion, shouting, "Traitor to the South! Death to the traitor!" Slatton fled the city under cover of darkness. He never returned to politics. But his decision, for a moment, saved one life. Even behind reinforced walls, hate found him. In July 1915, a group of prominent men, judges, politicians, officers, devised a rescue plan, but not to save him. They cut the power, disarmed the guards, and drove Leo Frank 200 kilometers away. There, beneath an old oak tree, they hanged him. Before he died, he whispered, "Tell my wife I love her." At dawn, as Frank's body still hung from the oak, locals came to take photographs. They sold them as souvenirs. It was no longer just murder. It was a ritual of hate, a message to the world about who ruled the South. The photos spread across America. Some were horrified, others proud, and in the silence that followed, something darker was born. Leo Frank's body was buried in New York. His wife, Lucille, never remarried. For decades, she visited his grave in silence. But the echo of the story never faded. In Georgia, people called it the South's revenge. In the North, America's shame. And between them, the divide only deepened. A few months after the lynching on Stone Mountain, a group of men gathered with torches and a burning cross. There, in 1915, the Ku Klux Klan was reborn, a movement of hatred fueled by the myth of Leo Frank. To them, Frank was not a victim, but proof of corruption, of an alien presence in an America they feared to lose. But from the same tragedy, something else was born. The Jewish community of America, shaken and terrified, decided to act. In 1913, they founded the Anti-Defamation League. an organization that still exists today. Its mission was simple: to protect the innocent from hatred. It was the first step toward a more just America. 60 years passed. In 1986, the state of Georgia officially admitted the trial of Leo Frank was unfair. He was not fully exonerated, but the state acknowledged its failure to protect his life. It was a late gesture, but a necessary one, because memory without truth becomes only a legend. The story of Leo Frank is not just about injustice. It is a warning of how easily a crowd can kill the truth, how words can destroy a life, and how, even after death, courage can still teach us. For every era has its own Franks. People judge before they are heard, and our duty is to remember that law and human dignity must always stand above anger.